TIFU by becoming an accidental active school shooter. This happened in the UFTIs. TL/DR below. My relatively small HS held an unexpected live active shooter drill. It was the first time they had ever done this. I don't know who developed this genius procedure. It actually makes no sense because of how they initiated it. We had once previously practiced what to do in this event, maybe a week prior, kind of casually. The teachers were aware of the timing of this drill but didn't tell us because the trauma would help us react better? No idea. In fact, I remember our teacher and likely all others calling in at one point, probably to check in that everybody was accounted for. However, it so happened that I was kicked out of class just prior to the announcement. My teacher was pretty flustered after minutes of me being a clown and just yelled at me to get out, but he was super frantic about me getting to the office immediately. Now I understand why. His mistake, but I played my part soon after. On my way to the office, I was taking my time. Of course, the lights went out as though a main breaker were flipped, just the way they all went out immediately. Emergency exit lights came on and the principal came over the intercom telling all teachers some code phrase which basically initiated the lockup/lights out/cower in the corner procedure. I was truly in a WTF state. Here's where I F up. Now I am the only dummy walking the hallways. Given the layout of this building, when I tell you it was dark, I mean you could hardly see your own hand, dark, even with the small distant exit emergency light down the hall. And it was completely silent now. It all happened in a matter of seconds. I can't say I was scared necessarily, because we all knew that there'd likely be a live drill at some point. Still, given my aversion to our principal, since I was in trouble a lot and not knowing what to do, I just ran following the wall with my hand back to my class and started banging on the door. I assumed my teacher knew what was happening and I didn't want to be in more trouble, so I just yelled, "Hey, let me in." The entire class of 20 kids in the dark instantly screamed at the top of their lungs, which then caused the adjacent classroom, who was also in complete darkness, no windows on this side of the building, to also start screaming and panicking. This coalescence of fear became so loud that nobody knew what the hell was happening, and the teachers were of course required to keep the doors shut no matter what, nor were they supposed to communicate with anyone outside their door till given an all clear, as far as I recall. Again, this was not a well thought out plan. Now of course my teacher must have called the office, but the message wasn't relayed properly, and I'll never know what he told them, because somebody came around the corner and in the loudest voice I had heard in my life said, "Get on the ground." There was a police officer visiting the school to oversee the drill, so whether he was taking the opportunity to do his part in acting, or really thought I somehow picked the worst possible day to commit mass murder, I don't know. He did not have his gun drawn, just his flashlight. He grabbed me up and took me to the office. The rest was a huge blur, but essentially I was not punished for that, but I got extra shit for my classroom behavior given the context. There was an assembly held the same day where we were all apologized to for not running this drill knowingly first. Parents were pissed, it was a whole thing. TL/DR became unaccounted for just as an active school shooter drill was initiated, ran around and scared the life out of roughly 50 people. Edit spelling. TIFU by unwrapping a condom. So this happened earlier in the week, but is NSFW, so posting on the weekend. Also on my throwaway accusative, since I don't want this story going back to the IRL me. So at uni, as a part of their safe sex promotion, we get given condoms in our Welcome to Uni packs for students who live in the university-run accommodation. I'd always chucked these in my drawer for future use if the situation requiring them ever arose. It never has, and so I took them home over summer and they've been sitting in my drawers at home ever since. Anyway, I am on inter-semester break right now, so I 19 was back home and poking around in my old stuff found some of them. I decided I'd open the wrapper since I'd never actually used one before or tried putting one on. Parents took me out of sex ed for religious reasons and I thought it might be good to try one on and try out masturbating with it, so promptly opened the wrapper. As I discovered, and the majority of the sexually active population probably know, condoms come kind of lubed already, and for whatever reason I took a smell since I could kind of tell it smelled weird. When I did this I realized that I had not only smelt this scent before but knew exactly how it tasted. I have memories of chewing on uninflated balloons quite a lot when I was younger, same with rubber bands, and the one memory in particular which became very vivid was finding a balloon in my parents' room and happily chewing on that. Except now I realize it wasn't a balloon and was in fact a used condom. I felt pretty sick then. I wish I could delete memories and that I'd never remembered/realized this. TLDR, got out a condom to try it out, realized I've tasted condoms before. TIFU, by using a waterproof vibrator in the shower after watching a horror movie. Obligatory. This happened 4 months ago. My partner 27M and I 27F went to the sex shop to find a waterproof vibrator specifically for shower sex. It's not everyone's thing, but it's our go-to. At the recommendation of the lady in the shop, we bought this little bullet with a charging port that was supposedly water resistant. One night after the two of us had shower sex, we rented Hereditary to watch with my dad as he was coming over to visit him, and I are both huge horror buffs. I was heavily freaked afterwards and pretty on edge in the dark for a few days. Dang good movie. Anyhow, I work from 5:30 a.m. 1 p.m. and my partner works a typical 9 to 5. There's always that overlap of me being home while he's still working in the afternoon. A couple of days after my dad comes over to watch Hereditary, I get home from work and hear this unidentifiable, absolutely horrifying noise coming from the bathroom. Like something heavy and alive thrashing angrily in the tub. My brain immediately conjured every haunted scenario from every fucking horror movie I've ever seen, and I was completely frozen. We keep the bathroom door closed while we away so our dog doesn't get into the trash, and I was literally too horrified to try opening it. Embarrassing, I know, but I was honestly shaking trying to even approach the door, and the dog wouldn't go near it either. Every horror movie in my life has told me to trust the dog. So I call my partner at work, let him listen, send him some videos from outside the bathroom since I am too panicked to open it, and he agrees to come home to investigate. He's a mechanic and a sweet angel, so he shows up from across town after a 20-minute drive in the middle of a shift wearing his leather welding gloves, ready to take down either a giant opossum or intruder or poltergeist while I am in the living room trying to hush a full-blown panic attack. He braces himself against the door, takes a deep breath, pushes it open like a fireman. I immediately hear a heavy sigh and a, "Babe, please come in here." Still nervous and shaking, I cautiously walked in to see that my waterproof vibrator had suffered an incredibly delayed shortage from the water exposure, turned itself on while we were at work, and was consequently thrashing, and I am not using that word lightly, around on the porcelain, scuffing up our tub. To add to my humiliation, I'd been posting videos about it on Instagram, and when I dropped off updating without letting followers know what horror was behind the bathroom door, I got a small flood of DMs from people asking what had happened. TLDR, waterproof vibrator shorted out and started thrashing around the tub making a horrible noise, called boyfriend to come home from work in the middle of the day cause I was too scared to open the bathroom door to see what it was. TIFU, hi, getting cheese wax stuck up my ass. This happened this afternoon while my parents were out shopping for some furniture. My parents are pretty conservative but are not opposed to toys and such. However, this fuck up is pushing it. One of my favorite snacks is Babybel cheese. It's not because of the taste but because of wax that the cheese is covered in. Is a picture of the product if anybody is unfamiliar. Each cheese portion has a wax coating around it that you have to remove before eating the cheese. I always take that coating and play with it like Play-Doh. Every time I ate some cheese I would save the wax to play with and add it to my collection. After about 2 weeks of saving up the wax, I had a sizable amount of wax to play with. This was all fun until my horny side decided to take over decision making. I decided to mold the wax into a dildo and stick it in the freezer so it could harden. I then took some butter and used it as lube. It wasn't the best, but it did the trick. I stuck my cheese wax dildo up there and it was pretty nice. I decided to take the dildo to the rear end to see how it felt. This is where the fuck up begins. The wax only stays hard for so long. After some time it deforms and breaks apart into pieces. So as I was putting my creation into the shithole, a part breaks off into my ass and I panic. I try to pull it out but I end up pushing it further in. So I eventually calm myself with the red wax stuck in the depths of my asshole. I call my parents and tell them to get their ass home, there is a medical emergency. My parents drop what they are doing and rush home. They tried to ask me what was wrong but I just hung up and refused to pick up any more calls. My parents made their way home 25 minutes later and I had to nervously explain why the hell there was red wax in my ass. My dad had the ultimate WTF expression on his face as my mom got most of the wax out. At this point the wax was softer and could just be scooped out. It felt tingly but painful at the same time. After this whole situation was resolved, my parents were pretty pissed. Since that incident I have taken a nice dump and the remaining wax made its way out. Hopefully a few more cycles and I can go back to normal. TLDR, cheese wax was molded into a dildo and I had to explain why a broken piece of it was stuck in my ass to semi-conservative parents. TIFU. NSFW. Our son found us mating in the woods. Throwaway obviously. One day my son may search Reddit for that one time. A few days ago the wife, our 9-year-old boy and I went camping and rented a cabin out in the woods. The cabin had no power and we were looking forward to a few days with no screens to distract us. On our second day and an hour or so after the sun went down, we put the boy to bed with only a really bright lantern at his side in case he needed to pee during the night. We went out into the woods for some drinks and conversation, and well, since this is a TIFU you can imagine where things naturally ended. Not sure if he did indeed have to take a potty break or if he heard some scrambling in the trees, but either way he was brave enough to come out alone with only that really bright lantern. He shined it directly at bare ass and then angled it higher and found his mom and dad nude and doggy style amongst the wilds of nature, humping like two hairless bears. His reaction was not what we would have expected. But to be honest, I am not really sure we gave much thought about what his reaction would be if he found us mating in the wilderness. He ran back to the cabin screaming, "I, like being an only child, I don't want a baby brother, or a baby sister, I am the only one, I don't want any more." This went on while we dressed, which was hard as we were laughing hysterically and it was very dark, and made our way back to the cabin. He continued, give me the keys, I am going to sleep in the car." We quickly did our best to explain that it's not always about reproduction and that aren't you happy your mom and dad love each other, but I doubt he followed any of it because he was so enraged. We explained we were happy with a family of 3 and had no intention of adding to that. This has always been the plan, and especially now, so that we are both in our 40s. This kicker. During that moment, he shined the really bright spotlight on my bare behind. I was in the process of ensuring we would stay a family of 3. Did I? Neither of us know for sure. If in 9 months he ends up with a baby brother or baby sister, he will never trust us again. TLDR, our 9-year-old son caught us humping in the woods and really doesn't want a baby brother or baby sister.